Broadcasting from Manhattan Beach and the World Wide Web, you're listening to CHSR, HealthyLife.net.
As a service to our listeners, this program is for general information and entertainment purposes only. CHSR, HealthyLife.net does not recommend, endorse, or object to the views, products, or topics expressed or discussed by show hosts or their guests. We suggest you always consult with your own personal, medical, financial, or legal advisor.
Welcome back to the Dr. Theresa Nicassio Show. This is a place of inspiration and education and hope for a more compassionate and sustainable world. It's like our happy place. Be sure to join us next week when the internationally renowned human rights and environmental expert and author of Dodging the Toxic Bullet and the optimistic environmentalist, Dr. David Boyd, will be joining us. He is amazing. You are going to love, love, love him. That show will initially be airing on December 26th on Boxing Day up here in Vancouver, here on the West Coast. If you're unable to watch it on that particular day, don't worry about it. These shows are put into this awesome archive on that you can access through my website, TheresaNicassio.com. You go on that, and you just click on radio and listen now. You'll find it. It's so easy to get here. But if you can go directly to HealthyLife.net, you can also find a way to get to this. So you're going to love next week's guest, but you are also, holy moly, you are going to love today's guests. Today we're going to be we're going to be talking a lot about the power of art and possibility thinking and imagination. It's going to be a really fun show. We have a couple of guests with us today, and we'll also be ending today's show. The latter part of the show will be about, be answering your questions in the Because You Ask segment. So before we start then, I'd like to tell you a little bit about our guest, Caprice Hogg, who is with us today. Caprice is an artist. I like to describe her as an artist, an educator, and a humanitarian. She's a really strong advocate for the environment and animal rights, natural health. I mean, she's a perfect fit for this show. This is what we're all about. She has chosen a path of supporting causes that she believes in. She donates to charities that she believes in, and her artwork and has really been a spokesperson for some really wonderful things. You'll notice I have a profile page of each of the guests on my website, and you can learn more about Caprice there and also get a link to her amazing blog, which is gorgeous. We can see more of her work. And so anyway, but she also likes to teach children and engage with at-risk teenagers through art as a medium for expression and transformation. And she has a studio right in her home in Kimberley, BC. So she's got a great story to tell. And so, Caprice, are you there?
I am. Thank
Welcome
you for having
to the
me.
show. Thank you for joining us today. I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, so Caprice and I were talking before. We've actually had lots of conversations, which have been wonderful. And we're like, how are we going to do this in just one show? We have so much we could talk about. And Caprice, you're going to want to talk more with her and probably connect with her. First, before we go further, what's your website, Caprice? Just I know they can get it from my directly from my website. But what is it? Right. What's your website again?
Okay, it's www.capriceartstudio.com. CapriceArtstudio.com, and that's Caprice, Caprice, if you're wondering if it's a C or S. So Caprice. It's like Cap Rice. That's right.
I never saw that. Anyway, I just saw that.
Yeah, thank you.
So Caprice, let's get right into this. Let's start with, if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about your story with our listeners and how art has influenced your life. Not a big question at all, I know.
Oh, yeah. Where to begin with that one? But, art is pretty much my life altogether. I'm incredibly fortunate to be able to do what I love to do as a career. I know it's not an easy career, and a lot of artists struggle at surviving in this particular area. But as you mentioned, I have my studio right in my home, and I get to sell right out of my studio gallery. I am open to the public, and people actually come right directly to me.
Yeah, and you sell out of your gallery in your home, and you also teach classes out of your home. Is that correct?
I do,
yeah,
as well as a little local art gallery. I'm now doing group classes across the street at the art gallery, which has been a whole new venture for me, and I'm really enjoying that because I get to teach a whole big group of people, which has been great energy and great vibes. And
so you live across the street from the art gallery?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. Now, this is like the art hub then in Kimberley. That's
pretty
great.
much, yeah. It works out quite well.
Great.
Sure.
One of the things that when we were talking is you were saying that there were some you've had some interesting turning points in your life, and some were events, some were just realities, and some were people who touched your life. And I wonder if you might be able to talk a little bit about some of the turning points along your journey, Caprice, that has ultimately led you to this direction of art.
Sure. Well, and I did mention to you in our conversations prior that I grew up having a disability, and so I've been in a wheelchair since I was 11 years old, and that I really believe kind of helped to develop my artistic nature.
In what way do you think that contributed, Caprice?
Well, I wasn't able to go out and run and jump and play and party and go dancing and do all the things that most young people do. So my mom was incredibly creative person and really encouraged that side of me. I was always very busy when I was young, and she taught me how to be a custom seamstress, and so I was always creating at home, and my hands were always busy. So I was never interested in art or painting per se, but I was always very creative in many other aspects, and so I think that kind of led into the art world, became a natural progression. And when I was through high school and my schooling, I went on to go to university where I was majoring in psychology, actually. And I made it halfway through my degree, my bachelor's degree, and then all of a sudden, things weren't going so smoothly at the university, and I was getting really stressed out, and it just wasn't for me, and there was all sorts of issues, and my mom phoned me, and she said, maybe you just need to take a semester off, and so I hung up immediately from my mom, and she was living in a different city at the time, and I hung up from her, and I immediately phoned the university and withdrew from all my classes. That was it. It was just on the spur of the moment. It was just time. And then
you just
I
stopped
the semester off. And when I went to go back to register for the following semester, they said, "Oh no, you've withdrawn from the university. You can't come back. If you come back, you're starting all over." And I went,
"Oh no."
So I guess that's not meant for me. And I kind of floated along for a while, not sure what I'm meant to be doing, and I kept saying to my mom and my dad, I don't know, but there's just something I'm meant to be doing. There's something out there. I just know it's going to come. And I kept floating and floating. And then in the meantime, I'd moved back home, and a lady came to the house to visit with my mom, and she had been a professional artist and teacher for 30 years. She took one look at me, and she said, "I want to teach you to paint, Caprice."
Wow. And how old were you then?
I was 21, 22, something like that.
Early 20s,
And I took one look at her, and I said, "No, I'm sorry. I have no talent for painting. I can't draw, so I'm sorry I can't take you up on it." And she's like, "No, I insist. I really want to teach you to paint, Caprice." And I said, "Well, I'll only take you up on it because I've got nothing better to do." So she was a very incredible painter and teacher, and she taught me all the theory and the rules of fine art, and she was incredibly strict, and she kept teaching me this theory, and I was starting to get a little bored after a while, and she finally handed me a paintbrush, and she said in 30 years she had never had a student that could sign and sell her first painting. It was that good, she said. So I never stopped painting from that day on. So that's how I got started.
Okay, wonderful. Well, if you don't mind taking a step back, you mentioned that you were in a wheelchair since you were 11, And I'm sure the listeners are wondering, what that was about and how that happened. And then, if you could share a little bit about your inner world, because then I know that Rick Hansen touched your life, and that was big. And I don't remember how old you were then, but you were quite young, like 13, 14, right. Something like that, as I recall in our conversation. Would you mind sharing with the audience a little bit about?
Yeah. Well, when I was 2 years old, I was diagnosed with a form of muscular dystrophy, and it was a very grim prognosis at that time for my mom to hear.
And she had other kids too, right?
She did, yeah. I've got 2 older brothers and an older sister, and the doctor actually told her at the nurse's station over the phone, and she was fortunate to have a young intern doctor who came and spoke with her, and the only thing she really remembers from that conversation was to just raise, Caprice, your daughter, exactly the same as you raised your other kids. And so my mom kind of took that and ran with it. And so that definitely was a big foundation for my childhood, how my family, how the surroundings I grew up in was very much proactive, and it wasn't always easy.
That it was an intern who you probably don't know and will never know, and she may never know where you are now and all the amazing things you're doing. One of my important points I really want people to realize is how the smallest acts of kindness, that there's ways we touch each other's lives we don't realize.
And
so
she
that
literally changes lives.
Yeah, she changed your life. She changed your mom's life. She changed your life. She changed the life of all your siblings, your whole family, and everybody whose life you've touched, has been touched by that angel, basically, that woman who...
Yeah, exactly. And as you say, who knows who that person even was?
She probably didn't realize that it made that much impact. I mean, I would be shocked if she did realize. So she touched your life indirectly through your mom, and you were just treated, raised just like the other kids, as well you should have been. And there were some special challenges that if you were in a wheelchair by the time you were 11, probably your mobility was not quite the same as other kids on the school ground. So how was that for you? Did it start to show itself early, or was it closer to that shifting time?
Well, for me, when I first grew up, it was a gradual thing, quite gradual. And so I walked up until I was about 11 years old, and then I started using the wheelchair part-time. And as I said, there could be a million stories I could share with you about those days. But, it was a gradual thing, for sure. And when I was 13,
how was that gradual thing? Again, I'm a psychologist. So how emotionally, how did you cope with it? Because I love how your mind, you've been able to. And I know your mom's probably been a big part of this, but you've got a really healthy perspective. So share with us a little bit about the secrets about how you've survived and thought about things so that you could function and be as positive a person as you are and be something. You're amazing. I mean,
a big part of it was that I had such a full life anyways. With I was always busy and I was always doing, and having older brothers and sisters, I went everywhere with them, which was a great thing. I mean, my next youngest sibling is my sister, Lisa, who's 10 years older than me. So the house was always full of teenagers and things when I was growing up, and everywhere they went, they took their baby sister, Caprice.
Oh, so
nice.
I
never really felt like I was going without.
You were included.
You
were
exactly.
Totally
and
included.
I was always busy, and in many ways, a lot of my friends that I went to school with were kind of jealous of my life.
Because you got so much love and exciting things with your family, huh?
Exactly.
Nice.
And our days were very full, and it was quite a blissful childhood despite the trips to the children's hospital and all those types of things. It was just, and I think for me as well, that when I had annual trips to the children's hospital and I would go and I would see these little 2-year-olds that were strapped into electric wheelchairs and who were far sicker than I was and who couldn't play the way I could. And so it wasn't a conscious thing, I don't think, when I was that young, but it was always in my head that I can't complain when those kids are way have much more difficulties than I do.
Right. So
that was always kind of
gratitude
there.
was a big part of your mindset, it sounds like, from a young age.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Wow. And then I know that around age 13, when you had surgery, and that was a bit of a tough moment in time.
That definitely was the dark part of my growing up period, was when you hit puberty, and all of a sudden my friends weren't really around anymore, and everybody was off doing their own thing, and they weren't slowing down to include me into things, and those were hard times for sure, as most kids with disabilities, I'm sure, could relate to that. And that's kind of when reality did hit at that point. And fortunately, I did meet Rick Hansen at that time. And
how did you meet Rick? Share a little bit of that. That's such a great story.
Well, he was on his Man in Motion tour, which not everybody, believe it or not, up here in Canada, he's a big hero for us, but not everybody knows. But he's an incredible man in a wheelchair who traveled all around the world from his wheelchair, promoting accessibility and spinal cord research. And he was the first disabled person that I had ever met who actually said, just because you're in a wheelchair doesn't mean you can't follow your dreams. So and that was exactly what I kind of needed to hear at that time, when I wasn't feeling good and I was in chronic pain, and all these things were happening to me at that time. And so that was the first time ever where I really thought that I could actually do something with my life.
Nice. And you were 13. You needed that. I mean, every 13-year-old needs to hear that message. But especially given the chronic pain you were living with, and the surgery you had that didn't go so well, and your mom was given bad news by the doctors that she didn't take and run with the bad news, which is so great. I think your mom's another huge person in your life, right? Who believed in you and never gave up, and thank goodness.
That's a massively huge part of my life.
Yeah,
for sure.
So you want to talk a little bit about your mom and how she's empowered you, and even maybe a little bit about, because we talk a lot about alternative health on this network and on this show, a little bit about how that touched your life.
For sure. Yeah, my mom has been by my side throughout my whole entire life, and I'm really, blessed to have a support system like her. And even during all those dark days, that's when she really did delve into a lot of the alternative therapies, and just to get me the help that I needed at that time when I was in such chronic pain. And she went into all avenues. Some of them worked and some of them did not.
Which ones seemed to help a little more than others?
Oh, well, there were so many of them, but we actually wound up meeting there's an old healer that came over from New Zealand. He visited Canada once in a while, and he never charged for any of his services. He just went where he was called, and it was he was just an incredible man. And
wow, like a Maori healer, or?
No, he was from Auckland, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it was a very interesting part of our life for sure those days, because when you're searching for answers, and the doctors tell you there are none, and then
but that's so depressing.
My mom is an incredibly determined lady, and she was very analytical, and so it was a different side of her, because she was always the type of person who needed answers. So in the alternative therapies, the answers aren't always as you assume they will be.
And a lot don't work. I mean, some do work and a lot don't. So, when you find something,
and what will work for one person doesn't always work for another as well.
Exactly. You just don't know. You have to try it out.
Yeah.
So that made a difference, and even probably her positive attitude made a difference.
Exactly, and we just kind of jumped in whole hog and did it all, and changed our diet, and just kind of did a radical change, and whatever it took, we tried it.
Yes, and from what you said, it sounds like your condition had been progressive, and you were able to slow or stop that. Is that right?
Yes. And even my mom just recently pulled out some of my medical files. She was cleaning out her closet and found them from when I was 18, and they even said it was in there in the medical files about how my progression had stopped.
Wow,
and whatever it is, just keep doing it. Basically,
all right. Well, Caprice, we need to take a short break, but we're going to be back. So come back, folks. Stick around. We're going to hear more from Caprice. She's got more great things to share with us. So just give us a couple minutes, and we'll be right back with you.
Being inspired by a speaker while learning everyday positive information that you can use to help your life is exactly what Dr. Theresa Nicassio does when she speaks in front of your group. From healthcare professionals to special needs parenting and everything in between, Dr. Theresa Nicassio can customize topics for your group on everything from health to psychology. To book Dr. Theresa Nicassio as a speaker for your group, visit yumfoodforliving.com or call 604-445-6463. That's 604-445-6463.
For all your live or pre-recorded webcasting needs, come to earthchannel.com. Get your web-based message out to a select group or the whole world. It's easy. A pioneer in webcasting, earthchannel.com provides the best products and services to big corporations and government users. And now this same technology is available to you. They have the best Earthcast encoders, servers, and products to meet your technical needs. But wait, don't want to mess with technical stress? No problem. They'll do it for you. EarthChannel.com is your answer. You can use webcasting for lots of things like advertising, marketing, customer support, training, and don't forget web radio and TV. In fact, you're listening to a live Earthcast right now. So come to EarthChannel.com. Actualize your audio or video webcasting needs today. You can't beat the friendly service or the price. Call earthchannel.com at 1-800-849-8978. That's 1-800-849-8978.
Yumfoodforliving.com is the place to get easy allergy-free recipes, all free of sugar, gluten, and dairy. But that's not all you'll get when you visit yumfoodforliving.com. You'll get resources for all kinds of things like wellness articles, videos, podcasts, a blog, all to help you create easy, healthy living. There's even a 50-page downloadable book introducing you to the philosophy of yum. Don't wait. Visit yumfoodforliving.com. Yumfoodforliving.com. That's yumfoodforliving.com.
If you like to spend your television viewing time learning about some of the things that you may have missed in history class, or if history was your favorite subject, then you should check out the link to the History Channel on the HealthyLife.net advertiser page. Order DVD sets by series or by subject matter right from our homepage while you still enjoy your favorite HealthyLife.net show.
You're listening to HealthyLife.net, the radio network that brings positive talk with positive change to make your world a little better.
Welcome back to the Dr. Theresa Nicassio Show. For those who are those of you who are just joining us, we're here with Caprice Hogg. She's an artist, she's a humanitarian, she's an educator, and she's talking with us today about the power of art, imagination, and possibility thinking. And so before the break, Caprice had started, you'd been started talking about, excuse me, about how your condition was seen as progressive with some form of muscular dystrophy, and you were having some challenges, but that you and your mom were fighters, and you explored alternative healings, and you looked beyond the box, and you looked beyond what the hypothetical prognosis was, and you were able to make the impossible possible. So now things are not progressing, and you're doing, and they haven't been, it sounds like, since you were 2021, at least it's been recorded. Right. And so, but I'd like to shift the direction a little bit, because this idea of possibility thinking and the imagination, it's the power of our mind. As a psychologist, I'm really into the power of the mind and what we can do through our visioning and so forth. You've been able to manifest that and discover more about that through your art. And could you talk a little bit about some of the art and how even some of the art that you create are scenes, landscapes that you've actually never seen yourself? and where that comes from, and anything else around this that you'd like to share.
It's interesting as you were discussing that there about the power of the mind, and I often kind of am baffled at the end of the day when I'll be in the studio painting, and a lot of, as I mentioned to you, the woman that originally taught me to paint, I've had several mentors, but the woman that originally taught me, she was very much rigid in learning the rules of fine art. And after months and months and months of training, she finally said, okay, I've taught you everything I can. Now you need to forget everything and just paint. Which is quite a challenge, let me tell you. But, there are those days when I'm in my studio and I just suddenly will be, in the zone or in the moment or wherever it is. And then at the end of the day, I wonder why I put this particular stroke right there in that particular spot, because it's so cool, and I get a little overwhelmed with how neat the painting will have turned out. And, of course, there are the opposite days where nothing turns out at all. Mm-hmm. But, and I often sit there and ponder my own mind as well as to how I managed to pull this out of the rabbit out of the hat, because so much of it's theory, but so much of it comes from this other place, this imagination, I don't even know how to describe it, but when they're in that place where that just all comes together at the end, it's a pretty phenomenal feeling, and I'm sure any artist that you talk to will tell you the same thing, that this is it's
like a discovery. It's like a Disneyland in your own mind, only better than Disneyland, because it's your own mind, and it's got its own values and so forth.
Yeah, it's an incredible feeling. I can't even describe it if you've never felt it, but it's just the most amazing thing to be able to paint every day. And like I said, there's the opposite end of the spectrum where nothing goes right, and you begin to think that you'll never be able to paint again because it's all just garbage.
Right.
Yeah, there's both aspects.
So that's the other part of the mind, where we have saboteurs that challenge us, and it's almost like they test us. And you're not a good painter. You can't paint it. You've used all your ideas up. Sorry.
It's all over. It's done deal.
You've spent, you've done all that you're going to do, and that's it. We've all had those moments, and whether it's art or if you're a writer or you're, or just sometimes it can even just be like energy. It's like, how can I get through and do more things when I've done so much? And people on this journey, but you've been able to combat that. And how do you do that? How do you shift that to a place of possibility? Like, oh yes, I can paint. Let me just.
Sometimes you just have to ride it through and let it go.
Yeah,
it's on its own path.
Kind of that mindfulness thing where you just witness where you are.
I even see it in my students, which has been kind of having students has been given me a whole different perspective on my own work as well, because I see them going through the highs and then the lows, and how the whole creative process develops and how it all comes to fruition. It's been an interesting thing to be able to witness as well. So it's the power of arts really that's a good title for the show, because it's really true.
Yeah. So as a teacher, what have you found some of your greatest challenges? Because you work with teens. I mean, teens can be, they're in such a tough time in life, and you work with children as well as adults. So what do you, as a teacher, what do you think is one of the hardest things? Because art is one of those things you can't really spoon feed someone, because it has to come from within them in a way.
Yeah, and I think the important key is to really tune into each person. And when I was working with the at-risk youth, that was one of the highlights of my career, I think, because they were coming from such a different place, and none of them wanted to be there. None of them wanted to paint, and they're like, I'm not doing this. I'll just do whatever I have to do to get through the day, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then by the end, they were all right into it.
Wow.
And I was teaching them art history and showing them paintings of Michelangelo, and the teacher that brought me in was like, they're never going to sit through this lecture. And I'm like, let's just sit back. And they ate it up. They just loved it. And by the end, they were just, all smiling, and they were really proud of their work and proud of what they'd done and accomplished, and that was an incredibly rewarding experience.
Nice. You really made a difference. That's beautiful. Well, Caprice, again, what's your website called again?
Okay, it's at www.capriceartstudio.com.
Wonderful. And check it out. I just went on it today. again, and she just added amazing, beautiful images that she's gotten, some of the new paintings she has, which you can actually buy as well from her. But she's doing beautiful work, and if you didn't get that, you can always go to my website, which is TheresaNicassio.com. Be sure to check that out. I have a little I get to show her off a little bit on that. And Caprice, you don't know this, but I found that there was a great interview that you had done previously on a YouTube, and I added that to your profile page, so you can hear even more, even a longer interview with Caprice, and it's really wonderful and inspiring to witness. So thank you again for coming on the show. If there's one piece of advice that you were to give to listeners, what would that be, given your learnings?
Well, I think that would be to just enjoy art, for sure. And, even if you're not creative or feel you're not creative, I've had so many people come up to me and tell me, I can't paint, I can't draw a straight line. Just go for it.
Great.
And if you don't want to paint or take part in actual creating art, just go enjoy art, go to art museums. It's an incredibly healing thing to be able to sit back and look at original paintings or sculptures or
great.
Well,
Caprice, thank you so much for joining us today. What a great addition.
Thank you.
And hang around. I'm going to speak with you a moment when we go to the next break. But before we go to the break, I want to mention that our next guest who's going to be joining us is Melody Owen, and you're going to love what she has to share today. She's going to be talking with us a little bit about how her mother's Alzheimer's disease that she's had now for 16 years, and also her daughter's traumatic brain injury that happened 2 years ago, how that has moved Melody herself to change how she lives and thinks about life. And she's got some wonderful gems of wisdom to share with you. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
There's a book that makes it so easy to embrace a healthy, gluten-free lifestyle, even kids will like it. Filled with heartwarming stories, food as medicine health tips, easy allergy-free recipes, and creative culinary inventions, the award-winning book Yum by Dr. Theresa Nicassio is your source for all of this and more. So make gluten-free living easy, tasty, and fun. Get Yum, plant-based recipes for a gluten-free diet at Amazon.com. Or visit yumfoodforliving.com. That's yumfoodforliving.com.
What does HealthyLife.net and Amazon.com have in common? Well, they're both available on the Internet. They both give great value. But most important, most of our positive program hosts and guests are accomplished authors, and their books are available from, you got it, Amazon.com. Now, it even gets better than that, because when you're listening on air to a HealthyLife.net host or guest, you can go directly to Amazon.com, and you can order your book while you're still listening to your favorite HealthyLife.net program. So when you hear an author you like, go to the homepage of HealthyLife.net and click on Amazon.com.
When you have a food allergy or dietary limitation, Dr. Theresa Nicassio knows it's hard to give up the foods you love, so she decided to put on her chef hat and give you affordable, personalized culinary consultations that will light up your taste buds. You'll explore substitute ingredients so you can enjoy your favorite foods again. She'll even help you make food preparation easy and guide you on your path to healthy living. And to get started, all you have to do is call 604-445-6463. That's 604-445-6463.
HealthyLife.net, the positive radio network.
YumFoodForLiving.com is the place to get easy allergy-free recipes, all free of sugar, gluten, and dairy. But that's not all you'll get when you visit YumFoodForLiving.com. You'll get resources for all kinds of things like wellness articles, videos, podcasts, a blog, all to help you create easy, healthy living. There's even a 50-page downloadable book introducing you to the philosophy of Yum. Don't wait. Visit YumFoodForLiving.com. YumFoodForLiving.com. That's YumFoodForLiving.com.
HealthyLife.net, the positive radio network.
Welcome back to the Dr. Theresa Nicassio Show. This is where we celebrate everyday heroes that we work together to help make the world a better place. And gosh, wasn't that wonderful hearing from Caprice? She is such a beautiful being. And our next guest that we have today, you are going to love so much as well. Her name is Melody Owen. Melody is going to talk about an everyday hero. She's going to talk about how she's been a caregiver and a guardian and advocate for her mom, who has Alzheimer's disease, for the past 16 years. Her mom, and she'll talk with you about that, has totally lived far beyond what is expected in terms of her, the progression of her disease and the challenges of being a caregiver, which many of you are living with, I know, are living with or have lived with, and so forth. So she's really inspiring. And she's also going to talk a little bit about layering on top of that. She's a mom herself, and she's got now, I guess, one teen and one that's just beyond teen. But one of her daughters, 2 years ago, sustained a traumatic brain injury during sports activities, and it's really been a huge impact on her life as well. So, Melody, before I just say anything more, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. It's lovely to be here.
Yeah, it's you've got quite a story, and I wonder if you'd be willing to share a little bit about your experiences, because one of the things we talk about in the show is there's the what of the story, but then there's also the so what of the experience. And so there is the what of having this, you can hear these terms, Alzheimer's disease and traumatic brain injury, TBIs, but there's a human being in there, and there's a human being in you. And would you be willing to share a little bit about how you've been able to still choose happy and find joy in the midst of all of the challenges that you've been dealing with?
Yes, absolutely. So my mom was diagnosed 16 years ago, as you said, and it has been a very long journey, but it's been full of a lot of joy. And sometimes, whatever you're given, you just have to accept that and accept where you are at that moment and accept where other people are at the moment, and just allow that to be. There was a time when now my mom's in a care home, and I would go to visit her, and she's not talking anymore, but when she first arrived, she was. And I'd walk through the door, and she'd look over, and she'd go, "Hi, Mom," and then she'd announce, "My mom is here. Everyone, my mom is here."
Oh, wow.
And there was always someone who was very helpful who would explain to her that I was not her mother.
Mm-hmm.
And then my mother would look over at me, very upset, and I would look very straight-faced at that person. I said, no, I am her mother. And then the person would look confused, and I'd look at my mom, and my mom would shrug her shoulders like, I don't understand,
Right.
And so we just, I would just go with it.
Oh, aren't you incredible?
That was where she was, and go with that. Right?
Yeah, so that the word you said like 4 times, I think, in the first little bit there is so key, is acceptance. And then when you manifest the acceptance, even when it means going to that place of imagination, because today's show, we're really talking a lot about imagination and possibility thinking and art, being creative. So that was a creative, artistic kind of solution that you had. It's like, sure, I'll be your mom. If that's what makes you happy, if that's what lights you up and makes you happy,
right,
why not roll with it, right?
That's right. My mother was thrilled when her mother came to visit. I was happy to be that for her.
Yes. Oh, aren't you a sweet daughter? Yeah. Yeah, and so this has been going on now. How long ago did she get in the care home?
She's been in the care home for about 7 years, and so now I go visit because she can't walk anymore, so I can't lift her, and so I'm not able to be a hands-on caregiver anymore. But
you were for 9 years. You were. Wow.
And I visit her as much as my soul can allow me to, if that makes sense. So, because there is grief around that, and so I always make sure to balance, right, her needs of me going in to look after her and make sure that she's being well looked after, and my needs of being a mother and me being a human being and needing my own me time and space for me.
Yes. Well, how did you juggle, being a mom yourself while your mom sounds like she was progressed pretty far along. If even 7 years ago, she was already at that place of not even knowing who you were. How have you coped with that and been a mom? And by the way, just so you guys know, it's like Melody's a superhero. She's just written a book that's going to be coming out this December called Fit and Fabulous, where it's actually not about weight or any of that. It sounds like it might be, but it's really about what she's talking about here, about living in a place of joy and feeling fit and able to live fully and joyfully. So it's anyway, she'll talk a little bit more about that after. But through all this, she's also written this book that you guys are going to be able to enjoy. But real quick, what's your website, Melody? Well, we're talking about that. NutritiousTruth.com. So you can learn more about her there. But also, just like with all the other guests that I have a profile page about her so that you can access and get that website right there from my TheresaNicassio.com. You just go under radio guests, and it says, I think, radio guest profiles, I think, is what it has, and you can click on and learn more about Melody there, but also access some of her social media and that, and also get links right to Amazon if you want to pre-order the books. They are available for pre-order probably now.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
So, going back to, we don't have a whole lot of time, but I'd like to really touch upon how it's been for you to be a mom, and then 2 years ago, on top of it all, having your daughter get an injury. What kind of sport was she in when she got her brain injury?
So she was a cheerleader, and she fell. Mm-hmm. And she fell once, and then 18 months later she fell again.
Oh, my God.
And that just, I guess it was a brain injury on a brain injury, maybe. And so she had quite a bit of fallout from that, a lot of headaches and disorientation and so forth. And so that has been quite a journey. And it's funny, she's 13 now, and I think she knows more about self-care than many. She's,
wow.
She says self-care's first. First I look after me, and then I do everything else. And she's quite accomplished. So I guarantee self-care is what you do if you want to do so much more.
Yeah, and that's really I think the song in your heart, which you've had to live because of life. And just so you guys know, Melody's going to be back on the show January 2nd, and we'll probably be back on the show other times in the future. She has so many complex and beautiful gifts to offer, and life has touched her in many more ways, even than that we're talking about here. But you know what? We need to be going to break again. But again, I'd like to ask real quick if there was one gift you'd like to give to the listeners, one recommendation. What would that be?
I would say accept where you are now. Love and accept yourself for wherever you are now and the people in your life, wherever they happen to be at that moment. Love and accept them for that. From there, it's so much easier to move forward.
Wonderful. All right, so thank you again, Melody, and you can stick around for a moment after when we go to break. We're going to have a break, and after the break, I'll be answering your questions during the Because You Asked element, and we are going to be, it's actually going to be a little bit about imagination as well, so the theme is going to carry on into that last segment. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
Being inspired by a speaker while learning everyday positive information that you can use to help your life is exactly what Dr. Theresa Nicassio does when she speaks in front of your group. From healthcare professionals to special needs parenting and everything in between, Dr. Theresa Nicassio can customize topics for your group on everything from health to psychology. To book Dr. Theresa Nicassio as a speaker for your group, visit yumfoodforliving.com or call 604-445-6463. That's 604-445-6463.
If you're like the 8 out of 10 women that say finding jeans that fit is a problem, well, your problem is solved. Lee Jeans has done extensive research, and they have jeans that fit. There's even an online Lee Fit Finder so you can find the right fit for you. Imagine jeans that instantly slim you with a custom fit and no gap waistband. And guys, kids, Lee has jeans for you too. Click through to Lee's Jeans on the HealthyLife.net advertiser page and get what fits.
When you have a food allergy or dietary limitation, Dr. Theresa Nicassio knows it's hard to give up the foods you love, so she decided to put on her chef hat and give you affordable, personalized culinary consultations that will light up your taste buds. You'll explore substitute ingredients so you can enjoy your favorite foods again. She'll even help you make food preparation easy and guide you on your path to healthy living. And to get started, all you have to do is call 604-445-6463. That's 604-445-6463. There's a book that makes it so easy to embrace a healthy, gluten-free lifestyle, even kids will like it. Filled with heartwarming stories, food as medicine health tips, easy allergy-free recipes, and creative culinary inventions, the award-winning book Yum by Dr. Theresa Nicassio is your source for all of this and more. So make gluten-free living easy, tasty, and fun. Get Yum, plant-based recipes for a gluten-free diet at Amazon.com. Or visit yumfoodforliving.com. That's yumfoodforliving.com.
Radio your way. HealthyLife.net.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Dr. Theresa Nicassio Show, where we celebrate life, love, and kindness. While we also acknowledge, as you've been hearing from our previous guests, the challenges, some of the challenges that are just part of living. You know, I like to say that, I like to celebrate everyday heroes because I think that to live, just to choose to live each day is a heroic act. And so every one of you listening, every one of you, every one of us, everyone is a hero, regardless of how that manifests and so forth. And part of the daily heroic challenges are related to this. In this next segment, I like to answer questions to help you along your own heroic challenges in life. And so this is where I answer your questions, whatever they're about, whether it's psychology or health, parenting, relationships, gardening, pets, cooking. I don't care. You can ask anything you want. Whether I'll be able to answer it, I can't promise, but we can give it a try. If you want to send in your questions, just click on the Ask Theresa tab that's on my website. That's TheresaNicassio.com. That's Theresa with an H, Theresa, Nicassio, N like in Nancy, I-C-A, 2 S's like Sam, I-O.com, TheresaNicassio.com. Or you can also email me directly at Theresa@TheresaNicassio.com with your questions. So for today's Because You Asked question, I'm going to address a question. I mentioned it's about imagination as well. So this is a question that a lot of parents struggle with, and I know that I did and my partner did. So this question comes from Sharon in Pennsylvania. And Sharon asked, she said, "Hi, Dr. Theresa. We're having a tough time figuring out how to talk to our son about Santa. It bothers me that we are lying to him, but don't know what to do or what to say to him, since we also want him to have a normal childhood. What do you think we should do?" God, what a great question. Okay, thank you, Sharon, for naming it. This is so universal. It's universal, and yet it's not. I mean, not everybody believes in Santa. Not everybody celebrates Christmas holidays. And so I just want to start with that this may not feel relevant to everyone who's listening who may not do that, but likely you have other things that you have in life that are imagination or not exactly true, whether they're fun things or other kind of belief systems that you have. So if we can think about this in that more global way. But I'm going to just focus specifically on the Santa piece for those of you, especially who, whether it's Santa or the Easter Bunny or the Tooth Fairy or any of these kind of magical characters. Because from a psychological perspective, as you know, I'm a psychologist. I've been doing therapy like 30 years. I have a kind of a different kind of perspective about this, or an additional element to it. And so what I'd like to first talk about is that I think that there's really, we think about Santa, I think of three primary things. One is that there's this magical fairy tale sort of belief system that he embodies. Second is, unfortunately, sugar and junk food, which, whether it's the sugar or whether it's the milk and cookies that supposedly you're supposed to leave for him, there's a lot of things there's messages around that, which I'm not going to get into for this show. And then the third is there's issues around, what are you going to do when a child discovers that it's not true? Which touches a little bit the first and the last kind of touch upon your question. But one thing I'd like to mention is there are some benefits. I think that there's definitely some benefits to playing along with fantasy ideas with our children. There's also some risks, so I'd like to speak about both of those. But first of all, in terms of the benefits, is that I really believe there is value in helping nurture our child's capacity for imagination. And, when we were talking with Caprice today and her art and how she actually paints landscapes that she has never and may never see because she can't actually physically even be there. But she uses her imagination and is able to create incredible magical images. And because of that, she's able to transform within herself. And then everybody who witnesses and experiences her art is transformed. And there's a real gift to that. There's also, I think, from a neurologic perspective, there's benefit to exercising those parts of our mind of creating things that don't really exist. So that's one of the benefits. I also think, though, that this is an opportunity for sharing play and wonderment with our kids. Our kids. The world is not always easy, and to create this little space, this respite, this place of magic and wonderment is another skill that, from a psychological perspective, can actually help counter things like depression and anxiety that you hear about, using imagery for relaxation and so forth. Well, we can't do that if we can't go to that place of imagination and even the place of pleasure when we're there, right? If we're imagining being on a what do they call it, like a tropical island on a hot, beautiful day with the white sand in our toes, right? That's us using our imagination and playing in our minds. So being able to do that with our children gives us another way of connecting as well with our kids. So that's a second benefit. And a third benefit, which is huge. It goes far beyond magical thinking, is the opportunity for us to dialogue with our children. And in one part of the Santa Claus thing is talking about longings. This child may long for certain material gifts, or usually it's material gifts. Unfortunately, that's a whole other conversation as well. But they have these longings, and so there's the dialogue about that. And there's also the dialogue when they don't get what they ask for, which is dealing with disappointments. So it's an opportunity to help teach our children coping strategies for life when life doesn't always work as we want it to work, as well as creating hopes and dreams and visioning other ways that life may be, or other things that we might be able to access. We also we can later discuss with our kids that not everything we believe is true. So that's a nice lesson about Santa Claus. Not everything we believe is true, and so there can be disappointment with that. But it's also a really important thing for our kids to learn. And that we, so that we can talk with them as well. What was it like to have these beliefs? And it actually made you happy. And so it's almost like a form of CBT, cognitive behavior therapy. We teach children that when you believe a certain way, that it actually changes how we feel. And when we don't believe a certain way, or we believe different ways, we actually might feel sad or disappointed. So anyway, I hope this is helpful, Sharon, to give you some peace of mind about it. And, the reality is when your children ask you the questions, when they do start to ask, you don't even have to answer yes or no about does Santa exist, but you can ask them, start with using the dialogue first before you get to the final answer, because that's where the richness of learning about the power of our thinking and imagination really takes hold, and it's a gift we can give. So don't go away. We'll be right back. We've got to go to another break.
There's a book that makes it so easy to embrace a healthy, gluten-free lifestyle, even kids will like it. Filled with heartwarming stories, food as medicine health tips, easy allergy-free recipes, and creative culinary inventions, the award-winning book Yum by Dr. Theresa Nicassio is your source for all of this and more. So make gluten-free living easy, tasty, and fun. Get Yum, plant-based recipes for a gluten-free diet at Amazon.com or visit yumfoodforliving.com. That's yumfoodforliving.com.
Shh! Over here. Here's a secret for a virus-free computer. ESET. They've been a pioneer in the antivirus industry for over 25 years. 25 years of innovative, top-rated antivirus protection. ESET's award-winning security solutions provide a safe online experience for over 100 million home and business computer owners. They are so affordable, fast, and simple to use. So be gone, you blue screen of death. ESET's on my computer. If it's not on yours, visit HealthyLife.net's advertiser page and click on ESET now.
When you have a food allergy or dietary limitation, Dr. Theresa Nicassio knows it's hard to give up the foods you love, so she decided to put on her chef hat and give you affordable, personalized culinary consultations that will light up your taste buds. You'll explore substitute ingredients so you can enjoy your favorite foods again. She'll even help you make food preparation easy and guide you on your path to healthy living. And to get started, all you have to do is call 604-445-6463. That's 604-445-6463.
HealthyLife.net, where positive overcomes negative.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Dr. Theresa Nicassio Show. I hope you've enjoyed today's show. If you or someone you know would like to be a sponsor of this show, I am looking for sponsors now. Do let me know by emailing me at teresa@teresanicassio.com, or you can even just click on that Ask Teresa button, and it'll have the same effect. It'll get right to me. So thank you so much for joining me and my wonderful guests today. Be sure to tune in next week. As I mentioned, Dr. David Boyd is going to be our guest, talking about why he is an optimistic environmentalist and why we all have reason to be optimistic too. So I'm so looking forward to that, feeding our hope. And until next time, remember that you matter. Every one of us matters, like that one intern mattered for Caprice, and that together we can help change the world one kind act at a time. Thank you for joining us.